All right. We just pretend the Blue Jays won last night.
Nope.
Folks are watching the Leafs game, so we could just pretend the Blue Jays.
So they looked at the standings and they're a game under 500 in fourth place.
It is the pregame edition of Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet. An hour away from first pitch as the Jays and Royals play the rubber match of their three-game series. The Jays coming off a 4-1 loss last night. They have closed the month of April, thank God, with a 15-16 record. And they'll head out on a road trip starting in Washington, D.C. On Friday. A reminder, we will be doing Blue Jays talk following the game today.
I'm excited. Winning edition.
Winning edition of Blue Jays talk. Just as we
Bass
said
is going to be
last
good today.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Hey, positivity, buddy. We can do it.
416-413-3959 is the back leg line. You can call us and leave a question during the game, and we'll get that after the game. Please leave your name and location as well.
Yep.
It adds some legitimacy to it, or I'll just make it
Give
up.
you some love.
Or I'll just make it up. There it is right there on the screen, 416-413-3959. It is Chris Bassett pitching for the Blue Jays today. We're going to be joined in a few seconds by Shai Davidi from the ballpark. We have a lot to get to. I guess the talking point today, Kevin, to kind of move stuff along a little bit, is the fact that Alek Manoah pitching in AAA yesterday had a pretty damn good outing. 6 innings pitched, 2 hits, 12 strikeouts. He did give up a home run. He sat 93, hit 96. Yep. He got his slider. He threw to a 54.2% whiff rate.
Big numbers.
He was good.
Oh, yeah, he was.
He was good. Against Paul Skeens, by the way, in Indianapolis. Paul Skeens.
Well, he didn't face Paul.
He didn't face Paul,
No.
but I'm saying Paul Skeens was on the mound, and he is just about the biggest deal in the minor leagues right
it's
now.
fun to watch.
So the reason we mention that is because Yariel Rodriguez went in the IL yesterday with thoracic spine inflammation, one of those injuries that apparently sounds much worse than it is. Usually when it's got
Spine
or 2 words in it, it's never good.
Scary. It sounded scary to me.
Basically, it's
Never heard of that.
Swollen back. And it may have been a result from apparently he fell awkwardly on the mound or something like that. Anyhow, Zach Pop was called up. But this is of significance, of course, because with Yariel Rodriguez on the IL and with the end of Alek Manoah's DL stint or IL stint approaching, it is May 6th. I guess the question is, 1, do you bring him up right now because he's pitched well?
Yep.
2, do you let him? Do you do what you have to do in terms of paperwork? He would pitch Sunday.
Yep.
Do you wait and give him another start?
Nope.
At AAA, and I think you probably do. And when Shai joins us, there's a way forward here. He is there. Well, there we go. We have Shai Davidi with us. I'll ask him this right away. I don't have to explain the various permutations with Alek Manoah, Shai. I will let you do it because, as you pointed out, there is a pathway here for them to basically go with the 4-man rotation because of off days, right?
Well, they could. They won't need a fifth starter again until May 14th if they wanted to go that route, which it doesn't exactly align up. Like, say it's a minimum stint for Yariel Rodriguez. He would be eligible to return until May 15th. So it doesn't line up perfectly. At some point, they're going to need someone to make a start. So a decision is coming, but they can push it back if they felt that Alek Manoah needed a bit more time or whatever the case is. But I think ultimately the cleanest move for them is to give Alek Manoah the start. I mean, I'm not sure that you're going to have sort of better circumstances. I mean, he's coming off a start where he pitched really well. He's a pretty good lineup that had some big league hitters in it. Everything fell into place. You've got the need. It's a start in Washington. It's not exactly a team that is crushing it right now. It's a pretty good pathway to reintroduce him to the rotation. And you're also, by doing that, you're not putting that pressure on your rotation to give up the off days.
Right.
And they did it for, what was it, like a month and change last year. And it took a toll. And, talking to Jose Barrios last night, is saying, like, how important are off days when you're in the season? He said they're especially important. And I think the other guys, if they felt it was necessary, they would do it. If the team felt it was necessary, they would do it because ultimately they want to win. But if there is a pathway, and there is a pathway here right now, this if you don't have to put that short-term pressure on the rest of your rotation, then why wouldn't you avoid it?
Shy, with Rodriguez, would he be better in the pen? Stuff play, could simplify it. The only question I'd have to ask you, have you talked to people that feel confident enough in him that he could, when he comes back, sort of solidify a routine, be able to get up, get, hot quicker because he's been sort of in that routine of being a starter? You think he can do it?
So it's interesting. I think ultimately, the best case scenario for the Blue Jays this season is Alek Manoah is in your rotation and logging innings, and Yariel Rodriguez is in the bullpen, giving you a multi-inning weapon that you can use at different points. That's probably the most sensible alignment. Longer term, I think the Blue Jays are very much hoping that Rodriguez will be a starter and can be a starter, but a shift to the bullpen one way or the other was coming, right? Like, they've got a rough number in mind for him. It's 100 innings that he was going to get to at a certain point. And so how are you going to get him wire to wire this season? Well, it's probably going to include some bullpen work, unless you are willing to blow past 100, assuming he was a productive member of the rotation. And so I think that's one piece. The other piece, like you mentioned about the routines and all that, you just think about sort of what his life has been like the last year and a half, and leaving Cuba, spending a year in the Dominican Republic while all the other elements had to fall into place for him and get cleared up, and then coming over here and suddenly you're a starter. He hasn't been starting for a few years in Japan. He'd mostly been working out of the bullpen there with the Dragons. It's sort of a lot to ask. It's just, hey, come here, have it all figured out. It's like, this isn't a guy who's in his 30s or anything. It's a mid-20s guy who has gone through a lot in his life over the last little while. So I think that there's some development that still needs to occur there. That can certainly still occur. But for needs this year, for what the Blue Jays need, I think that Manoah in the rotation, Rodriguez in the bullpen is the best way forward for them. Especially if Manoah is recapturing his past form, because there's no handcuffs on you with Manoah in the rotation. You just let him pitch.
Shy, every time I ask about Alek Manoah with people that would have an answer for me, they never, I think, knew what the answer was when it came to what they needed to see, what they wanted to see, how he felt. Like, I got to be honest with you. I watched him yesterday on some video and briefly watched him live. It didn't look any different to me. Like, the velocity looks there. The slider looked like it was breaking the same. Why was he better yesterday than he hadn't been in previous starts, in your mind, you think?
So, I caught a few highlights of it as well. I think there's two things. One, the slider was doing two things. It was there was a bit more of a horizontal version of it where it was dropping, and then there's a bit more of a vertical version where it was dropping, and then the horizontal version was moving side to side, which is more like what he'd been featuring last year. And that the Blue Jays believe that vertical one is a good piece. And manager John Schneider talked about it a fair bit today about how effective he thinks that version of the slider is, how it's effective both the righties and lefties. And that, the amount of swing and miss he got on his slider, that's not something that we've seen in his previous outings this year. So he was he throwing it with a bit more conviction? Was he in better weather conditions would allow him to be a bit more confident and comfortable on the mound? Whatever the case was, there was much better execution in that outing than there was in other starts previous. And so if that's something that's locked in, that's great. But, ultimately there's a few things that are going on here. The conversation changed a lot around him once Yariel Rodriguez hit the injured list, right? Beforehand, it was, well, let's see what happens here. And ideally, it's he's got a few starts where he's pitched well and it's rolling. But all of a sudden, here's a need. There's an opportunity. and all these pieces are lining up, and so the conversation's shifted a little bit.
Yeah, it's it's interesting thinking back to I think it was an article you wrote in the spring talking to Manoah. One of the points he made was that one of the things that he really felt badly about last year is he felt that he let down the rest of the rotation because he said, I know those guys had to pitch, that they had to go to a 4-man rotation. I know that my issues put an extra strain on the rest of the rotation. So it does, it kind of makes sense what you say. And especially, Shai, given the fact that, let's be clear, I mean, this rotation's been okay. It has not been dominant. I mean, it's been the best part of this team, but it's not been dominant. Yeah. They give up a lot of home runs. They're walking more guys than they want. I think there's an element of, well, you got to be careful with these guys right now, and you don't want to get too cute with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Jeff, and it's well said. Like, ultimately, what are you costing yourself down the road in August, September, and maybe even October by putting this extra strain on them now?
Yeah.
And this is the Jays are finishing up 13-13. And it's a weird bit of schedule, right, where you've got 3 off days in the next week or so. And so that allows you to create some different solutions or give yourself some options in the rotation. But at the same time, those rest days are vital because you don't get a lot of them in the season. And there aren't too many of them beyond this. There's a couple in June, and I can't remember off the top of my head right now, but I think there might be one in July before the All-Star break. That's a grind that's coming up. So you want to let them settle into the early part of the season, sneak in a bit of extra recovery, and then have them set for this long stretch until the All-Star break, because there isn't going to be another period like this afterwards for a while.
Yeah, you just wonder, right? All the bad starts are the struggling starts in a row, and then he has one good one. Why did he have the one good one? Can he maintain that and consistently do it sort of over and over and over again? Let's change gears just a little bit. Offensively for the Jays, Shai, have you talked to anybody that's around that? Have you seen anything that will tell you the lineup's about to take off a little bit more than what it's been?
Well, the one point that I heard a lot of talk about after the game here Monday was that there was a little bit more elevation in the ball, that not only were they hitting balls hard, they were hitting balls harder into the air. And, I think you look at last night, Cole Raggins, he's going to do that to a lot of teams, right? Like, that is when he's on, and as long as he's healthy, he's going to be one of the nastiest dudes in the American League. There's the way he's gotten 99 in his back pocket. He's throwing changeups and sliders and cutters. Like, I'm not sure as a hitter what you do there, but even still, there were a few balls that they got in the air that they were driving, and that seems to be the piece that the Blue Jays feel like was important. That especially with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. we talk about a lot, but even with Bo, the line drive that he hit, some of the other guys, if they're hitting the ball, making that good contact, but you're getting it in the air, that means your plane is starting to correct. You're starting to meet the ball at a better spot, a little bit more out in front, catching it in the areas where you're going to do more damage. And so that is something that maybe is a sign, but look, until there are a bunch of runs on the board on a consistent basis, this is going to be something they're going to fight through. And the Blue Jays, look, we talked about this a lot coming into the season. It was going to have to be Bo and Vlad and Springer who were carrying this team, and so far that hasn't been the case, and that's why the offense has, to some degree, looked the way that it has.
Yep.
Shai, we're going to let you run, man. Thanks so much for doing this.
Thanks, buddy. Have fun today.
Anytime, guys. Be well.
See ya.
Shai Davidi, our MLB insider with Sportsnet. 7:07 will be the first pitch today on Sportsnet 590, The Fan of Sportsnet. The Jays lineup is as follows. George Springer leading off in right field. Vladdy Jr. is at first base. Bo Bichette is at the shortstop. Daniel Vogelbach DHing. Dalton Varsho in center field. Danny Jansen behind the plate. Davis Schneider in second base. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa at third. Addison Barger in left field. And as we mentioned, Chris Bassett on the mound for the Blue Jays. Chris Bassett in his last outing was not very good. That was that the Friday night game against the Dodgers? It certainly was. 2 2/3 innings, 9 hits, 7 earned runs. He said after the game that, quote, adjustments will be made. It was kind of it was a sleepy game from the Blue Jays. Of course, it didn't help when Shohei Ohtani hit the home run, but adjustments. I don't know if Chris Bassett was talking about him adjusting or the Jays adjusting.
Oh, absolutely. He's talking about himself. He stunk. Like, you just have some of those starts where you just stink. You just don't have it. But all year, his sinker's been not real good. Like, average against 393. Slugging against the sinker is 500. Reason why I brought that up is in 6 starts, he's given up 22 hits off of that sinker in 6 starts. Last year, he made 33 starts. He gave up 74 hits.
Wow.
He threw the sinker last year in 33 starts over 1,200 times. That's a little over or right at 40% of the time he threw his sinker. To say that his sinker is the most important pitch he's got, we talk about the plethora of stuff that he's got and changing the speeds, and it all revolves around that pitch right there. And that 393 average and 500 slug has to get better. And I think that's the adjustments he's talking about is whenever he wants to throw it to a certain window of the strike zone, it's got to get there. Whether it's up, down, backdooring it, front hipping it, like whatever he's trying to do to it to a certain batter, for whatever reason, his first 6 starts just hadn't been getting there. So I think that will probably be the adjustment he's talking about is that pitch. And hopefully if he's got that, all the other stuff sort of falls in place and he can add and subtract. And, it just sort of feeds off of that. When he's got that, he gets them looking for it. He gets some freezes. He gets some called strikes. He gets some guys shaking their head. And now he can start playing and tinkering and adding and subtracting and tricking and being unpredictable and all those things that make Chris special. But for me, it starts today and will always start every start he has with the sinker.
Anything at all surprise you in Shai's discussion about the options with Alek Manoah?
No, I just wonder about why the inconsistency up until his last start, and his last start was
until last night.
Why? You have an answer? I don't either. Do you think Alek Manoah does?
I watched a little bit of it. I'd be lying if I said I watched every pitch. I watched a little bit of it. I thought he looked, again, I hate trying to read body language. I thought he looked more comfortable. I thought he looked more like.
See, his body language for me, I've watched almost about.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
You look the same.
Look the same.
I mean, mechanically, I guess, because he does look like he's in a lot better shape than he was even the last couple of years, to where he can repeat that delivery, and just the fall off the mound or the push off the mound is consistent. It's not falling so much off towards the first base side, which that means all those pitches that he wants to throw and locate are erratic.
Yeah, last year it was like he was tumbling off the
Well,
the
I
mound.
mean, repeatability and being centered over the rubber allows you to do so many things. They talk about timing just like a hitter, right? Getting out of the glove, how you fall down the mountain, push down the mountain, however you want to say it. It has to be on time. You have to be in better shape. You have to be consistently in your legs, have your legs strong enough to be able to do that, to where your pitches are going where you want them to go. I just wonder why that was. That's all.
Do you think, not to overplay this point, but do you think he knew? I understand. He's not pitching against the guy in the mound. He's not facing him.
Yeah.
But do you think he knew that the guy he was facing is the top pitching prospect in the game?
I think he knew that Yariel Rodriguez got hurt.
Okay.
I think he could care less about Paul Skeens.
Okay. No, I just wondering because,
I mean,
Alek is a guy that does kind of, when he was good, he did kind of like the moment. Maybe too much at times, but he liked the moment. I just throwing that out there. I don't know. I mean, were you asking what the difference between that start and the other one?
He's got to face the Skeens every time he goes out there for him to be good?
I'm just wondering if there wasn't, and I'm trying to find positives here, dude.
Well, there was a positive, the 12 punches. I just wonder why. That's the only thing, because I root for him. I mean, he's worked hard on his body, and he's made adjustments mechanically, and he
they need him.
understands.
I mean, they
no
need
question.
him.
Yeah, it seems
They
like
need him.
Rodriguez will be better in the pen. She's got too many pitches and locating stuff, and the amount of pitches he throws per inning. It's just too much.
What the hell is he going to do in the pen? He's going to have
simplify it. He won't throw as many. He'll be
which
more,
he did
maybe more
which
efficient.
He did in Japan.
He'd be more efficient.
Yeah.
Like, that's the whole point in putting him in the pen is, and you can sort of, put kid gloves on him and sort of throw him who you want to throw him against, and maybe you'll get some chase that you wouldn't get to where he has to sort of set a guy up for second and third time through. That's the point. So, I just wonder. I wonder why it looked the way it looks last night and not look that way the 30 other starts he'd made since he's been hurt or injured or whatever it is, whatever that is.
3:07 is the first pitch this afternoon on Sportsnet 590 The Fan, and Sportsnet, the Jays and Royals playing the rubber game of a 3-game series. We're going to talk about the Jays hitters and hitting against velocity.
Yeah.
After last night's outing against Cole Reagans.
Yeah, Reagans
Certainly,
averaged 97.7 miles an hour on his Sportsnet.
He was, yes. And we're going to talk about the Jays hitters against velo. We'll do that when we come back. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet. All right, it'll be Seth Lugo against Chris Bassett today. I was going to say, how many different pitches will be thrown in the game?
16. Yep. Pick a window. Can't cover them all. And you chase either one of them dudes around that strike zone. Yeah. That thing will last about an hour and 40 minutes.
3:07 will be the first pitch on Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet. Don't forget Kevin Barker, Jeff Blair. We will be along following the game with Blue Jays talk. And it's your show. So the number to call is 416-413-3959. That is the back leg line. You'll hear Barker's beautiful voice. You will be able to leave a comment or question about the game. Now, this is May 1st, so we can broaden it a bit, I suppose, and discuss what you see or what you have seen through the first month of the season, your positive points, your negative points. Try to limit the negative points to a dozen. You can leave your name and location.
Leave those
as preferred. And, we'll get you on air, and maybe you'll win a prize if we select your – I said maybe you'll win a prize if we select your comment.
Who's buying the prize?
Well, that's to be determined. I
can eliminate myself right now.
Well, you're not employees of Rogers are not eligible.
We're not? Okay.
No, we're not eligible. Anyhow, 416-413-3959. And we'll be on till probably about 7 o'clock after the game. And the Leafs aren't playing tonight anyway. I got nothing else to do.
Yeah.
Did you watch it? We did. We have to admit, we flipped back and forth between the hockey game and the baseball game.
I didn't watch, but I was, I rode. I was in and out.
Back and forth. Because I told people the Leafs are going to win. They're going to win the series.
I don't even know how to cheer.
Yeah, they're going to win the series.
So you say defense? So you yelled at me for saying that.
Well, yeah, you're chanting defense like it's a football game.
I said something else that you yelled at me about. I said, I don't know. Run prevention or something.
But, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so it's over.
It was exciting.
The series is over. The Bruins are done. The Leafs are going to win. And, hey, at least they're not the first Canadian team eliminated from the playoffs this year. That would be my Winnipeg Jets. Anyhow, John Schneider is manager of the Blue Jays. We're going to talk about the Blue Jays hitters against 95-mile-an-hour plus heaters this season.
Not as bad as you think it would be.
It's not as bad.
No.
Barker found something positive.
Tried.
He did.
Well, I got a whole page of negativity, and then I tried to stay positive. And after seeing that guy last night,
we'll deal with that. But first, let's hear from the skipper, John Schneider, who was interviewed before the game, and we will hear from John Schneider when the video is ready to be turned around. Should we just go? Should we start our discussion? No, we'll wait. We'll wait until we have John Schneider queued up. But the 95-mile-an-hour fastball, it is an intriguing discussion. We were surprised, frankly, at how good the numbers were.
Some of the guys had good numbers.
Some of them were good. Blue Jays hitters against 95 miles an hour this season. we were a little. Well, let's just say there was some evidence that kind of supported some of our preconceived notions.
There's a reason why Justin Turner said out loud that he's basically proud of the lineup for getting the ball in the air to the pull side, because he sees the same numbers that I see. It's not the easiest thing to do to slug on velocity to the pull side. A lot of mechanical things have to go right. And when you're not mentally in it to do it, you don't do it. So, I thought those numbers would be way less than what they were, because that lefty throwing 97 last night basically took them behind the woodshed.
Yeah, he's
good, but he's left-handed. And it's, I understand the changeup's really good, and I understand the fastball is really hard to hit. But there's a lot of right-handed hitters in there that looked like some of the time they didn't have much of a chance. And that make you scratch your head a little.
Hey, Derek, can we run that board with the 95 plus? Well, let's do that right now. We'll talk about that. And then when you guys, I kind of dropped this on the technical people turning the John Schneider stuff around. So I'm going to apologize for that. It's my bad. But this is what we were talking about, Blue Jays hitters versus pitches 95 miles an hour and up last year, or this year. Sorry, the league average is 231. The Jays are 257, which is sixth in MLB.
Yeah.
And, slap me in the face, because I thought they'd be a whole hell of a lot worse. The league average slug is 348. The Jays are 366. That's 13th in MLB.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we can get into slugging with runners in scoring position, but we won't. But go through those numbers. The thing that stands out to me, obviously, is third from the bottom, George Springer. Because to me, we've seen – that's the guy I'm worried about in the order, is George Springer.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things there. I think you're talking about the slugging percentage against velocity. I think that is why you're hearing Don Mattingly come out and say that they're not a home run hitting team. Well, if they're not a home run hitting team, that would mean they got to get a bunch of hits.
Which means average is an important,
absolutely.
good old average. The stat nobody talks about is important for this
I know
team.
khakis just took their khakis off and threw them at the TV hearing us say that, but that's...
Please put your khakis back on.
That's exactly what it's all about is if you're not going to slug against velocity, I think league average on an average fastball is somewhere right around 93 miles an hour. I mean, that's not the smallest of numbers, but that's not 95 plus. So, I think the third one from the bottom there with George Springer hitting 227. Yeah, he looks like he's hitting 227.
I thought
off the
Justin
fastball.
Turner would be better.
Yeah, I do too. He's 39 years old. I think you got to remember that. Why do you throw older guys velocity? Is because fast twitch and just the bones don't work like they used to work when they were in their low 30s. So, that I don't think is a giant number, just because I think sometimes he will cheat like he did yesterday. Caleb Joseph did a good job of, showing, sort of opening up the front side, landing open, cheating to hit the fastball up, which is sort of what you have to do when you're up there in age. I think the Vladimir Guerrero Jr., I think that's embarrassing. I've said this, and I'll continue to say it.
You have.
250 is not good enough for a 24-year-old who should be annihilating any fastball. And why somebody has not walked up to him, maybe they have, and said, how can we become the best fastball hitter on the planet? And for him to be hitting 250 off of that, it's a joke.
Ernie Clement, 429.
Yeah, if it's small sample size, right? He don't play every day, but that does show you that if you are short and quick and stay inside the baseball and you have a level plane and just a very simple, not gaining a ton of ground with your lower half, and it's basically pick it up, sit it down, and you're balanced and you're just thinking about throwing the back hip at the baseball and the eyes will direct the barrel to the ball. That gives you a chance to catch up to anybody's velocity. And, oh, by the way, the most important part out of all that, we've had Ernie on, and you listen to Ernie every time he talks. He says the exact same thing. I go up and sit on the good old number one and adjust to everything else. You know what that is? I don't give that dude respect. There's no respect. I think I can hit any of his fastball. Whatever that thing is, I'm going to start there. And then if he hangs me one because I'm in an athletic position, at least it gives me a chance. Right? It's got to be that simple nowadays. And it's a simple plan. It's so simple, but you can do it because all the things that you don't do with your mechanics allows you to get the barrel of the ball.
Do guys who aren't everyday players? Is it more important that they have a simple plan at the plate, or is it more important that everyday guys have a simple plan? A simple plan is good, but is it more important for a bench guy or more important for an everyday guy?
Vladdy gets the fastball 55% of the time. Well, why wouldn't he do that?
Yeah.
I don't understand that. Like that.
No answer for that.
I mean, Derek Jeter's a Hall of Famer. He said, I look fastball right down the middle because I don't like the ball in off the plate. I don't like the ball away off the plate. I'm going to look right down the middle because I don't respect him enough to think that he can throw me 3 perfect pitches. I think that's sort of where the Jays are at now with the conversations and what you're not seeing. I mean, I hate to rhyme off some negativity, but they're 29th in slugging with runners on base at 313. The Orioles are in first at 486. That's like a 170-point difference. It's just like they're 30th in slugging with runners in scoring position at 267. The Cubs are in first at 496.
You're more than 200 points.
Yeah. 29th with home runs with runners in scoring position at 8. The Yankees are in first with 21. Like, it's just the little things that you have to, going away from the first month, and now you can eliminate slow starter and didn't have a spring training, and it's cold. No, it ain't. It's May. You can't have that. John can't come on our show and say any of that now. And all you got to do is go, look, what we are trying, some of the numbers and some of these guys have sort of bought into, I have to simplify this thing and look for one pitch. Mm-hmm. Most people can't hit the curveball consistently anyway. If he throws a good one, I'm out. It's like Reagan's yesterday with the changeup. Why would I look for that?
You're not going to hit
He's throwing 98. Yeah. I mean, and a bunch of them were all eating the plate. Like, he ain't nibbling.
No.
He's coming right after him. So I think that if you're trying to take away a positive, some of these guys are buying into some things with the velocity, right? They sit that first, and then they just sort of fight on all the other stuff. And then there's other guys, either they're having a different approach that's probably not working for them, or they can't. And you have your own opinion about who you think can't. And in some people you would think, and that's a guy that hits third for me, just that lower half, a lot of moving parts, consistency. Even yesterday, how late he was on the fastball.
You've made this point. You've made this point time and again. If you are going to be a great player, you have to hit the fastball.
You have to destroy it. If you want us to talk about you like a great hitter, it starts with the fast. 2015 is a prime example. They destroyed fastballs. Like, the meat of that order destroyed them. And then occasionally they'd educate guests and look spin. Or with 2 strikes, they would look spin. Because that's what good run producers do. Salvador Perez, Buck Martinez talks about that all the time. You can tell he's sitting spin when there's traffic on. Because he knows normally that's what he's going to get. That's smart hitting. But it starts with, I got to start getting after that good old number 1 just to line me up. Have my swing with some fluidity. Like, it's just, I'm not forcing it now. It's not in parts. I'm not trying to play catch up. That's what I said. I know you roll your eyes at me when I say there's talent there.
I'm not rolling
and I
my
think
eyes.
This is why I wanted to throw this out there, because some of these numbers are positive. And then some of these numbers are embarrassing. That's sort of where they're at. So there's a big separation. And I think they can, get it closer and meet in the middle and maybe get hot. How was I?
That was good.
Okay.
I'm glad I teed you up. That's what I'm here for. John Schneider's the manager of the Blue Jays. Let's listen in to his pregame media availability.
Yeah, good stuff. Delivery stuff, slider shape, velo. Really good outing, kind of exactly what we're hoping for. Just being effective and efficient is what I've been saying. He was definitely that last night.
Command really just the biggest thing you were looking for?
Yeah, I mean, his stuff has been there. So I think just strike throwing, getting deeper into the game, all that kind of stuff. Checked a lot of boxes last night for sure.
You mentioned just shaking the ball and the slider and a ton of swing and that sort of thing. Like, what made that?
I think just having kind of more of that downward action as opposed to more horizontal movement. Really, you can throw that against righties and lefties, and when he's been good, that's what it's been like. So, watching it back, The swing and miss is a important factor what we're looking at.
Then a lot of cold strikes at the sinkers, all of that almost as encouraging.
Yeah, I think that. I mean, he's got those 2 pitches going. He's pretty good. So yeah, I think the called strikes, the swing and miss, just the pitch count being where it was, and the strikeouts. It was all pretty good.
What are some of the things you're considering in terms of next steps?
I think seeing how he is today, for one, seeing how all the 4 other starters that are here, how they're doing, and if we can be strategic with all these, kind of just sorting through that today, and hopefully have a decision in the next 24 hours.
Kind of putting what's best for him.
Yeah, I mean, for everyone, really. What's best for Alec? We've been saying that, from the get-go, and then really not losing sight of what's best for the other 4 guys that are here.
The experience last year of having a 4-man rotation, I've just been told about those guys. I assume you probably would like to avoid that if you could.
Yeah, in a perfect world, you're giving everyone, the exact days that they can get throughout the course of the schedule. So they're such a good group. They're competitive and they're really ready for anything. But again, when you're trying to do right by everyone, you've got to take a lot of things into consideration.
So as you can tell, the topic of conversation was Alek Manoah again. His start yesterday at Indianapolis for AAA Buffalo. 6 innings pitched, 2 hits, 2 walks, 12 strikeouts, a home run. He sat 93, hit 96. He got a whiff rate on his slider of 54.2%. He threw 44 sliders and 33 sinkers. And you heard John Schneider talk about the importance of having that slider of the vertical as opposed to
slider shape
to the horizontal, which is what they were talking about with him, slider shape, right?
Well, I wondered, basically why it was different from other starts to that one, and he just gave you the answer, right? It's slider shape. It was effective. It was efficient. He got swing and miss on the slider. Like, what did they look at when they watch him pitch? That's the big question. Is it mechanical or is it just performance driven? John, I think because it sounds to me like anyway, the people that I've talked to, they feel confident in conditioning, the mental part of the game, the mechanical part of the game. It doesn't sound like they want to have serious conversations anymore about that. Now it's just about look at the shape. Look if he's getting swing and miss on it. Is he quick? Is there action early? Is he throwing 16 somewhere right there pitches per inning? Like you're looking at very specific things about his outings, which I think tells you a lot about where Alex is.
We will. I don't think we'll ever know the full story behind what happened to Alek Manoah last year, and I'm not saying it's anything nefarious or anything like that. I'm just saying I don't think we will. Just as we don't know what happened with Aaron Sanchez when he's here, we don't know the full story. And I'm not saying anything. I'm not nudge, wink, winking that there's anything going on. But it is. From the get-go, so much of the conversation was about the slider, wasn't it? Like when you really drilled down, even when there was, talk about conditioning, yada, yada, it all got back to the slider. Even the fastball velo was down at times. It all got back to the slider and the slider shape.
The people I talked to, they thought the slider shape and the slider was not there because of the conditioning.
And there's nothing he can do if he doesn't have the slider.
Well, I mean, he's got a good sinker. I mean, he's very uncomfortable with the sinker because of the windows he throws it in to righties. And when he's front hipping it to a lefty and getting some called strikes with it, allows him just to be better and easier, fluid, little bit better with the slider and being able to miss with it. I have no idea either, and I wouldn't ask. Like, I'm not sure I even should. That's sort of sometimes I think certain things you just don't have any business knowing. But I think it's been a long period of time from the time he was good to the time right now. Like that's a long time. So now I think it's sort of they like what they saw. Hopefully you see him. It's not the other 4 guys' fault that they ain't got another starting pitcher. Throw him out there. I mean, if you think he can have better slider shape and he can throw a sinker where he wants to a righty, throw him out there. I mean, again, you got to get back to that, and I think you were hearing rumblings of the other 4 guys last year didn't like that. It was hard on them. That's not their fault. It's like the Dalton Varsho thing when other guys aren't hitting in front of him. Well, why move him up? It ain't his fault. Like, leave him where he's at. He's better there, right? It's that kind of thing. So, yeah, I think just seems like they like John. Seemed like That's the best conversation, at least in my mind, that I've heard from John in a while about Alec Manoah. I don't know about you, but he was confident and he liked everything that he was featuring.
Yeah, it was the first time. It was the first time in a long time that we've heard John Schneider talk, and you've been able to come away and think, there's a chance he is going to be pitching in the majors.
John had answers for the questions that were being asked. I've asked John many questions about Alec Manoah. He looked at me like I got 3 heads.
Yeah.
He didn't look that way. Like, he actually had a specific answer about every question that was asked to him because of the way he looked on the mound. And again, that's a great sign. They're a better team with him pitching good. They just are. Like, they can line everybody up and put everybody in there. Put big leaguers on a big league roster. That's the whole point in this. They are a run prevention team. I mean, we try to be positive with the 95, but they ain't scoring a ton of runs. What's that stat? Third worst runs per game at 3.5. There's only 2 other teams. That's the A's and the White Sox. When you're down there in that, amongst them 2 teams,
that's no bueno.
You ain't no good. So it's just, they're a better team. This is the way they're going to win games, and hopefully you can come back, hit the ground running, help them, give them some quality starts, and take the pressure off some other guys.
I want to flip back to our discussion about the hitters against fastballs of 95 and above. And again, a reminder, the 307 is the first pitch this afternoon. It'll be Seth Lugo against Chris Bassett, so I'm not certain how many 95 plus we're going to see this afternoon. We've talked about this a lot. I think we've kind of come to the conclusion that we don't know what can be done. But with George Springer, there has to be, at some point, a time where the Jays sit down and say, we can't have this guy leading off. This cannot continue all year, can it?
Yeah, I think you have to.
I mean, it can't.
You have to pick your best 4 hitters and ask yourself, is George good enough right now to take an at-bat away from the other 4 late in the game? And if the answer to that is, and you have to think about it, yeah, look, I'm not in the locker room. I'm not talking to George. I just know what the numbers say, and I know how he looks. And a lot of the times it's not like they're making perfect pitches with fastballs to him all the time. No. Like, they're just not doing that. And he's super, super late. Now, again, they continue to tell us that he's a notorious slow starter. That's why I said it's May. Can't say that no more. Like, you've had enough at-bats. He's got well over 100 at-bats now. Like, he's seen enough to be athletic and be on time. And, it sure looks to me like, because of whenever he takes a big swing, he falls across the plate. That'll tell you, again, whenever they started the season saying swing at what you can do damage on, he can do damage on balls in the air to the pull side. When his finish is the way it is by his back foot falling across home plate, that'll tell you that he's taken away half the field. He ain't staying down and through it, long through, like short to it, long through it. He ain't trying to do that. He's trying to get short to it and out of it to pull it. That's why he's losing balance and falling across the plate. So, yeah, sooner or later, I think they'll have to have a tough conversation. When that is, he ain't the only one struggling when it comes to that, right? I mean, again, they're not doing a ton. When you're 30th with runners in scoring position and slugging percentage, and you are, 28th in average with runners in scoring position at 201. The Orioles are in first at 293. They're 8th worst run differential at minus 26. Like, sooner or later, you're going to have conversations, and it's going to be more about you talking and
I don't know,
the player listening.
I will tell you, I don't know if there's a perfect way out of this issue.
Basically, it is.
Would you lead off Bo?
Well, I think what is it? I can't remember. I think there's 3 guys that play every day that are hitting well under 200 with runners in scoring position. That's Vladdy, that's Springer, that's Varsho. Mm-hmm. Those 3 dudes at that one stat have to get better because they're getting tons of at-bats with traffic and a runner in scoring position. Like, until that changes, I'm going to sprinkle it around because there's too many of them that are having issues doing it, that you could bring people from the bottom of the order and stick them up there that.
I'm going to offer a real wacky suggestion. Would you consider leading off Varsho? If you had to make a move. I'm thinking of a guy who can run a bit. I'm thinking of a guy, bunt is. I'm just throwing stuff out there. I don't pretend to have the answer to that, but I wondered about that.
Leads your team in homers too.
Yeah.
Oh, would you rather him hit a solo homer or a 2 or 3 run homer?
Well, because
they don't hit a ton. They don't hit a ton of those either.
Again, but I'm looking for an answer here. Kiermaier, Bo, Vladdy. No.
See, perfect world. I like Bo leading off.
I do too.
I think Bo doing what Bo tries to do and not forcing him to or challenging him to hit balls in the air to the pull side. Like, I'm okay with Bo leading the American League of Hits. I don't know about you.
No,
I like that.
I've made that point. Look, we're on the same page here. I understand why Bo would feel the way he feels because, TikTok, the payday's coming. And if he hits home runs, I don't blame him at all.
No.
But I got to tell you, for the Blue Jays, I'll take what Bo did last year. Like, I'll take lead the league in hits, son.
Yeah, Bo's
lead the league in hits. I think that would make me happy.
Bo's the least of the worries.
Well, no,
they need run producers.
Yeah,
they need guys. I mean, that's what we've been talking about in the offseason. They just didn't do enough in the off. Let me be honest. They didn't do enough in the offseason. That's what we were saying. They need 2 Turners, or they need a Turner plus an in Turner.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to ask a 39-year-old to have back-to-back career years offensively, that's a ton to ask, man. He's a really good hitter, but he is an older hitter. Like, it's just a lot to ask. That's why we were saying, man, it'd be nice to have 2 of them. But some guys are just, look, this is sort of where they're at. This is why I think the Alek Manoah issue is I think, starting to figure itself out, and hopefully he can come back and do some things. And, hopefully they can be better than 21st in ERA as a staff at 4.28 and be better at giving up the second most home runs allowed at 41, or be better at that one of 13 teams to have walk more than 100 batters at 102, be better at 24th in pitches per inning at 16.99. The Mariners are first at 15.6. Like, sort of, when you look at where you're at in the standings and you think about what you're doing on both sides of the ball, and sometimes you can say to each player, you've earned 4th place. Jeff, they've earned 4th place. Now it's time. It's that old saying, you got nowhere to go, but.
Well, you do have one.
Well, I mean, they're not a 5th place team.
Tampa Bay is.
They got better pitching than Tampa. They'll figure the pitching out. They'll keep it in the yard. They'll solidify things. I mean, a lot of this is Rodriguez and Francis of the world. Yep. Like, and Chris Bass has gotten off to a slow start, and all those things will work itself out. They'll figure the pitching out. They'll get people out they're supposed to be getting out. It's just offensively. Jeff, the 3.5 runs per game, something's got to give. It's either from above, got to make a move, something sooner than later. I don't know what that move is. I don't know how you could make it. But the 3.5 runs per, you just can't expect that to continue and you even be close to making the playoffs. Not even close.
3:07 will be the first pitch. It will be Seth Lugo against Chris Bassett. The Jays lineup, I'll read it out to you again. George Springer leading off in right field. Vladdy Jr. is at first base. He's hitting second. Bo is a shortstop. Daniel Vogelbach is DHing in the cleanup spot. Dalton Varsho's in center field. Danny Jansen behind the plate. Davis Schneider is at second base. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa at third. Addison Barger in left field. We mentioned Chris Bassett is on the mound against Seth Lugo. So, it'll be a fun afternoon to chart pitches. 2 dudes with 130 different pitches. That's it for us. We will be back following the Jays game on Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet. Absolutely, a winning edition of Blue Jays Talk. 416-413-3959. Write that number down on your hand right now. That's the back leg line. Leave your name and location, please. Enjoy the baseball.